What we're going to go over today is we're going to go over rail car inspections. Earlier we did our initial inspection that was on the ground. Now we're going to do our second primary inspection, and that's everything on the top of the car. And we're also going to take readings. Before we even get to that, we got to cover a few essential things. First is our PPE. Bump cap, safety glasses, FR clothing, safety shoes. One big question a lot of guys have, and I'm going to settle it here for this place, is what kind of gloves to wear. Well, it depends entirely on the situation. Normally, day like today, cool, cloudy, it's decent weather, it's not raining, not snowing, I just wear, and that's all we wear, are just generic work gloves. They're not specifically propane resistant, because at this stage the propane we're coming in contact with is almost exclusively vapor. And one way to look at all of this is what is your risk level on a scale of 1 to 10. Taking readings, maybe a 1, because the risk is really low. When it comes to hooking up initially, maybe a 2, because all we're dealing with exclusively initially is just propane vapor, even coming out of the liquid lines. And then when it comes to disconnecting, then it gets up a little bit higher, because we'll disconnect our liquid lines while our vapor is still hooked up in recovery. But even then, it's not that much, it's more like a 5. And so these type of gloves are great. They do what you want. They protect your skin, they protect your hands enough. You don't necessarily have to have something that's considered propane resistant. One of the biggest reasons I don't normally wear them is, one, they become very uncomfortable when it's warm out, and they don't have as good a grip. And so setting them aside when it's raining out, and so we're hooking up cars, we don't have the luxury here of waiting for decent weather. We have to offload in heavy downpours, we offload in fog, we offload in snowstorms, we offload in all types of weather. So when it's really wet weather, I wear these. They're uninsulated, they're a Memphis Predator. They work fine. They're more pliable than the standard monkey grip, and they don't absorb water. So they're good gloves to do that with. They're also not a bad glove if you have to disconnect in warm weather and you are pretty sure that you have to disconnect because your stinger locked up and you have to drain that piece of pipe and that little bit of hose, and you want to protect your skin against liquid spray. These are really good. When it comes to cold weather or a situation where you want the most dexterity possible, these are essentially a pair of lightweight cryogenic gloves. These things are dirt cheap. These things are dirt cheap. These are not quite so much. These are around $20, $25 a pair. These are mildly insulated. You can get these that are very well insulated. They are very comfortable. The cuff comes down really well. They're a good glove. The drawback is, and even weather like this, is you will sweat a great deal. And you may decide that that's all right, you'll just put them on the glove dryer. It's your call. But generally, this is all we do. And one thing I need to talk about that is of continuing importance is housekeeping. Everything here is to be maintained, cleaned, easily identifiable, easily accessible. We want everything to be uniform as much as possible, but it has to be clean. Here's my shelter, and inside this shelter is where I keep the bulk of all of my stuff that I do. I have 4 offloading stations. I have 4 hoses that I use to connect my nitrogen to my stingers. This is my go bag. This is the bag I take when I go take car readings, and it's something we're going to be doing in here. I carry a little 2-inch, 300-pound gauge. I carry 2 adjustable wrenches and a cable cutter. The rest of that is just to put trash in. Over here I keep a spare stinger in case something goes wrong. Here's a cheater bar. If you need a bar to put on the end of a wrench to take an excessively tight plug out, that's what you use. Here's where I keep methanol. I got my small one labeled. This is nice for putting methanol down inside your connectors. I got a gallon of methanol there. I just repurposed an antifreeze bottle, but I got it labeled the way it's supposed to. I've got that there. This, every once in a blue moon, you'll get a thermometer well that is so full of junk you can't drop a thermometer down. I just take this, push it down. It's usually the first few inches, get it broke loose. About once a year you use that. I got used oil here. We as a rule don't use Teflon tape unless we have no choice, but I got my used oil here. I got that labeled. I carry little bottles of antifreeze that we put in here when we go take car readings, and then I got several spare gallons down here. Little first aid kit. You ever take anything out of it, you go immediately make a note so we know to resupply it. Here I got my 3 general buckets. One is just sand. That is our #1 choice when the tops of the cars get slick. Frost, ice, snow. We do not use ice melt up here on the cars, only sand. And there's a bucket. I got brand new seals. I'm about out. I'm going to be ordering some of them in another couple of months. And then I put all of my old seals from the cars, go right in there. And then all the trash we get goes in there. And here's where I just keep generic things, straps, replace spare gauges, and occasionally you do have to have Teflon tape, so it's kept down there. This is as trashy as this can ever be allowed to get. No more. No more trash, no more. Things get messy, things get full, clean it out. Keep all this walkway clean, always. When it comes to these hoses, there's different kinds, different ways to do it. What I chose to do is I just buy high pressure. This is all 3/8 inch high pressure rubber hose. And it's tough, it's durable, it's rated for more than anything that the nitrogen that goes through it. You can step on it, walk on it. It is flexible, pliable, 20, 30, 40 degrees below zero, just like it is at 80, 90 above. And then I just got a 3-way split inside here. All of the couplers are it's 2 collars. So the one collar will go down when you connect it, and this other one slides down to lock it and actually opens it up. Make sure you always watch out for these things. Don't beat them, don't flip them down, let them hit metal. Don't step on them. If you put them in a bind, they'll leak. Just treat them decent. They're like $28 a piece, and we use a lot of them. And during sub-zero, they all leak. At one point or another, they all leak. So if they do leak, the biggest way to fix it is you just take this and turn the whole thing just a little bit back and forth. That always stops it. It's just the cold. So now we're going to go and we're going to show you. I left this up here because I wanted you to see it. And this is a switch broom. Some of you never move cars. Some of you, your railroad takes care of everything, so you probably don't have one of these. We have them. We have 2 of them. It's really heavy bristle down here at this end. It's got a steel scraper on that end. From the 1st of November until I think the last risk of snow is gone, because we just had snow here, a lot of heavy snow like 3 days ago. I keep it up here. I keep it somewhere up in here, and I keep a snow shovel up here too, all during the winter, and that's what we use to clean cars with. And I'm going to load up this bag here real quick. And we're gonna go and we're gonna take a look here. Fire extinguisher. I have 4 offloading stations. I have 4 fire extinguishers. They're all located and everything's kind of laid out the same way. Light switch to control my overhead lights. They are not automatic. I have 1 thermometer for every offloading station, and they just hang down in here so any of the accumulated glycol can just drip down, and I just use a sash chain. Very simple, very sturdy sash chain. And then there I've got my thermometer in armor. So we'll just lay it down there. This is my palm valve, and when I turn this on, I've got my nitrogen off right now. I'm going to go turn my nitrogen on before I go and hook up cars, but this palm valve, when you pull it out, sends nitrogen to this actuator and to this connector right here. Here's my quick connector. It's just held in place with a bulkhead. My quick connector, my nitrogen hose plugs into here. I loop it out, and then I can take it out to go hook up cars. You see how this is laid out? Every toolbox is laid out the same way. Every toolbox must be maintained in the same order. Don't change it up. You want it all to be the same. So if a guy goes from one toolbox to another, you always know what's what and where's it at. And if you drop something or something, you know if something's missing. It's not uncommon every once in a while to forget a wrench, and that wrench is inside a car. You don't know it. It's easy to forget or misplace if you've got clutter. We don't want clutter. We want organized. There's my oil that I keep here. I got one of those 704 labels on it. Here's my low pressure gauge. The only reason I use this model is because Amazon had them for $3.73 a piece, and so I took it. I don't need that part of the gauge, I just need this part. Here's where I keep all my seals. Here's my remote shutdown. Each station, each toolbox has its own remote shutdown. You can stop the compressors. If the compressors are running, everything's normal, but you want to shut just the compressors down. Green enable button, then the black button shuts the compressors off. In order to reset the electronics in the office, you hit enable again, black button again, see you'll get a red light, and then get a red light. That's how you know the button activated. And then you just reverse it. Then you can go down to the compressors and restart them. The emergency stop is exactly what it says. It shuts off everything. It's part of my e-stop system. So I've got them here, and that's where I keep everything for everybody, one in each station. When it comes to wrenches, this one is for taking the plug in and out and the pressure gauge in and out of the sample line valve. This is for tightening up all of your Acmes. This is a good one, but the problem with these Marshalls is the casting is pretty crude. We have to file this down and file this down to make it work really well. And then I just put a little friction tape or hockey tape on that one. Proto click stop 24-inch. On the Proto, you don't have to do anything to this worm gear to get it big enough to pull out the widest of the wide plugs. If you have a Crescent brand, normally you have to grind on this part of the worm gear, grind it back in order to get that jaw to open all the way up. This is your primary wrench for removing and installing plugs. The FRA is on a big kick about rounded out and over tightened plugs. And one of the things a lot of guys do is they use only a pipe wrench. There are some guys that use that pipe wrench instead of this and instead of a spanner wrench. Well, they're the guys that are part of the reason why the FRA is on such a kick. FRA wants this, an adjustable wrench used to try to prevent these plugs from being rounded out. And you have to specify in your SOPs what wrenches you use and when you use them. So read my SOPs. Do what they say. We don't want to, I hate it here when plugs come in so rounded out you can't do anything with them. This is an offset. These are nice. Regular wrench works just as well, but I switched over to these a few years back. Matter of fact, I found somebody left one of these on top of a car that came in. The jaws were shot, so I just put in new jaws, and it's been a great wrench. Same thing. Just everything in its place. And then when it's done, when not in use, keep that down. That'll keep the worst of it, of your weather, off. As a normal rule, we shut these off when not in use, so that you only on the cars you're offloading. This is our vapor, this is our liquid. In my liquid pipe, I have a pressure gauge that always reads what my liquid pressure is, and that's really important when you're offloading. You want to be able to see what your pipe pressure is when you're offloading. For two reasons. One, it's a good point of reference for a pressure differential reading, and it will also tell you whether your screen in your liquid line and your strainer is being plugged up or not. Then over here, I've got my actuator, and then over here I've got another pressure gauge, and that pressure gauge reads what's actually going through my vapor pipe. And so I can take this reading and that reading, and I can get my initial, to me, it's the most functional pressure differential reading when I'm offloading. That's the one I really care about the most. And then each one of these, I've got a swivel, and all of these are smart hoses. And so this is really good when it gets really, really cold weather and these hoses just don't want to bend, they want to stay in the shape that they're in. This swivel will give you just that little bit of an advantage to be able to get your hose put in position the way that you want. So keep it so that when you look at one setup, you know exactly what all four are like, and keep it clean. Just keep it clean. You will avoid a lot of problems just by doing that. Now, I want to get over here and grab my bag. We're going to go ahead and start on our inspection here. You got a foot latch, just release it, drop it down, slide this over. Move that out of my way. Now, first thing you do is you just look. It's just like looking, it's just like inspecting on the ground. Use your eyes, keep your eyes open, your ears open, your sense of smell, all of your senses. Pay attention, because we want to find problems while they're still small and easily manageable. And we want to look for things that could pose a threat to ourselves or indicate a problem with the car. So whether they got chains or not, sometimes these chains aren't hooked, sometimes these hooks are missing. I just got a bunch of generic S hooks to put back in the chain. You look around, see that? Some lazy person left a seal there. We can't let it go. And then you just look around before you do anything. You're just looking for, nobody wants any surprises. Hey, we're going to cut the seal. Where did I put my phone? Here it is. We can just take a real quick picture. I'm doing 4 cars today. I am sure as hell not going to remember which seal came off of which car, but taking a picture, that'll help me. And we'll just dump it in there, and there. You want to look at these, make sure, you know, just, that's all. We're just glancing around. We're just looking for something obvious. And now you look. You're just looking for trash, you're looking for something obvious. While you're looking in here, you have a weep hole right there to drain out any liquid that may get inside this relief valve. Make sure it's not plugged up. I had a car come in, somebody filled them full of caulk. Don't know why they did it, but they did it. And now you got to watch out for this pin. You don't want it laying around causing you trouble. Either lay it in there, keep it out of your way, or you can reset it back in the hinge and let it stay out of your way. So we're just looking, we want to make sure these hand wheels aren't split, aren't broke. We just want to make sure that this doesn't look terrible, that there's nothing leaking that we can obviously tell is leaking. Everything looks pretty fine. It's actually one of the cleaner cars we've gotten in a long time.